Um, anyway, so presumably you would appreciate it if I were to finish my lecture a few minutes early today as well, I take it. So that's what I aim to do today as well. But, you know, we got to do what we got to do. In order to not do a replacement lecture, I guess we got to keep up with all the, material that we need to learn. So, Melissa, could you little? Sorry, yeah. So we're moving over to the other end of the market structure spectrum, monopoly, right? So we looked at the perfect competition, and then we're going to look at other forms of market structure as well, be it more oligopoly. We're also going to talk about monopolistic competition towards the end of this as well. We're going to talk about sort of various things that monopolies do as well. I'm probably going to leave that till next Wednesday a little bit, but essentially we're going to talk about stuff like price differentiation, okay, and other strategies that firms can use trying to increase their profit. But we got to know what monopoly is to begin with first. So monopoly is not okay. Let's think about real life examples first. What are the sort of monopolistic firms can you think of in your life? Is there anything? Well, but producers are, like there's KT&G, I didn't smoke, but I happen to know that there are like Marlboro and 뭐 있죠 또 갑자기 생각이 안 나네. I know the British brands more than Mayfair, stuff like that. Here you would also have Dunhill. Is that big in Korea as well? Or 여기서 지금 방금 사끄덕거리신 분들은 대략 알겠습니다. I don't know what else is there. So there are more than a number of producers. Domestic cigarette-wise, I think it's yes, you are right in that there are monopoly. It's a monopoly. Only the KT&G has it. So 디스플러스라던가 또 뭐 있지? The only example I can think of is at the moment the one that we all know about, the one, the blue pill. Yeah, there are a number of substitute drugs for that. So even though that was patented, so Viagra was patented for a long time, and generic drugs were illegal. Now they are not. So stuff like Cialis and other stuff like that are being produced. Same with stuff like blood pressure, hypertension drugs and stuff like that. Yeah. 아니 왜 그 얘기에 갑자기 이렇게 빵 터지시는 왜 그렇게 아니 이건 학문적으로 얘기를 하고 있는 거예요. 왜 그래? Anything else? Drugs, Korail, trains. We can't get from Seoul to Busan using any other. Not, unlike the long distance express bus, 고속버스는 많죠. Like on a Seoul to Busan route, you can take 중앙고속 or 동부고속 or whatever. 금호는 서울 부산 가나 모르겠습니다. 전라도 쪽을 많이 가서. Anyway, stuff like that. Anything else? I mean, I'm trying to get you to think about as many different examples as possible deliberately so that you can think about the sort of characteristics that are common to those industries. Okay, so PX in yes, the PX in the middle of 예비군 훈련장. That's a great example of monopoly, although they have absolutely no control over price, right? Or, in fact, a cigarette can be a monopoly in army. Because, 그지? 여기서 좀 격하게 공감하신 분들이 몇 분 계시죠? Because you can't get the foreign brands. You can now, I think, for certain instances. Anyway, or alternatively, even in drinks, we have a number of monopoly drinks, right? Like, for example, stuff like a particular brand of Chinese baijiu, 백주 같은 경우는 그거 한 곳에서만 만들잖아요. 예를 들어 수정방 같은 경우, for example. Or, I don't know. I don't know what else can I think of. So in that case, that firm will not be a price taker. It knows that decreasing or increasing its own output can have an impact on the market demand and price. However many it decides to produce means, the market demand is your demand. It's not a horizontal line anymore that you have to accept. The amount at which you decide to produce your output there determines your market price. The only constraint, therefore, you face is the market demand. That's it. That's your constraint in the market. I mean, apart from production. Production technology is your other constraint. But in terms of the market demand side, the demand curve is your only constraint. In other words, you can't make 2 million bottles of expensive wine and then charge it at $2 million each and force everyone to consume. That's not how democracy and capitalism works. If you produce more, and if you want to clear the market, you will have to lower the price. If you want to, on the other hand, charge a really high price for it, you'll have to produce little amount of output. Now, and that's the reason why people try and exploit, the monopolists try and exploit as much as possible out of that constraint that is the market demand curve. And then we're going to talk about monopolies' normal decision today, and then we're going to talk about other ways in which monopolies can increase profit on Wednesday. But to motivate you, let me just gonna give you one particular example, just to motivate this. Now, does anyone know what the most expensive brand of wine happens to be? 세계에서 가장 비싼 단일 브랜드 와인이 뭔지 아시는 분? Must be a wine connoisseur, one or two here. Yes. Romani Conti is the most expensive wine, selling at around, in Korea, roughly around 30 million won per bottle. 한 3천만 원 합니다. The best years of Romani Conti would like 61, so 62, or 2099, or other good years, are known to fetch prices in excess of 70 to 80 million won. 7천, 8천 넘은 경우도 많고요. 그냥 비싼 게 아니죠. Now, this Romani Conti wine is, do you happen to know this as well? Made by? It's France. It's Burgundy wine. Burgundy 와인이에요. It's made by a vineyard called Domaine de la Romani Conti. They make 6 wines in total, 6 brands of wines. Romani Conti, Échezeaux, Grand Échezeaux, Romani Saint-Vivant, 2 others, La Tâche, and something else I can't think of, but you get the point, right? Richebourg, yeah. Those 6 brands they make. Problem is that they are all, the other 5 are all good wines. They've got the really good quality wines, but they're not Romani Conti. They're not the best terroir, best sort of type of product. So what they engage in, what the vineyard engage in, is a very aggressive tactic of marketing known as bundling. You can only buy 1 bottle of Romani Conti if you buy 1 from each of the other vineyard as well. It's always sold in a bond of 6. 로마니 콩티 한 병 사려면요, 방금 얘기했던 5개 있잖아요. 뭐 라타슈, 리슈브, 에시저 이런 것들 한 병씩을 다 사야지만 됩니다. 6개를. But because Romani Conti is extremely high in demand, it's like the status symbol. I've told you this once before, but apparently in the height of the financial bubble in 2006, the entire quantity of Bordeaux 1945 wines, the VE year, so that's apparently it's one of the best years in history of wine, and Romane Conti, 1950 something, I can't remember, exceeded the amount of wines ever produced in Bordeaux and Romane Conti in that year. Some of it must have been fake. 그러니까 1000병을 만들었는데 2006년 한 해 동안은 1300병, 1400병인가 consume 됐답니다. 말이 안 되는 거죠. That means that someone must have changed the label, made the bottle look artificially old or something like that. But the power of bundling and other, so this runs right into the area of marketing here. How can you increase your profit out of it? So for those of you taking marketing classes in addition to this, that's where it fits in. How can you increase the profit by using a different set of strategies? But we're going to talk about bundling and mixing up and packaging, etc. a lot more on next Wednesday. So for the time being, let's stick to our analysis of monopoly. Okay? Oh, by the way, and that's the reason why if you want to see that Romane Conti, if you go to Lotte department store on 서공로, 그 을지로에 있는 거 본점이요. If you go to the basement floor first basement floor, near where the food market begins, they have it's out on the table. It's on display all the time. And at the neck of the bottle, it says monopole, which is the French word for monopoly. I'm the only person that can make this, suck it. Yep. So that's the power of monopoly. If no one else can replace this wine's social status, that's how much you can do. You can force people to buy other stuff that they don't want, because people want that Romane Conti by that much. Okay? So let's look at the profit maximization perspective from the monopoly's perspective, okay? Obviously, profit is defined as 이유는 뭐죠? 가장 간단하게? 뭐 빼기 뭐? 뭐 매출 마이너스 코스트라고 하려고 그랬죠, 지금. It's revenue minus cost, right? So, revenue minus cost. Crucial difference with the case of perfect competition is that revenue itself is now also dependent on Y, your output. In other words, you can't have a monopolist who, okay, so let's rephrase that sentence to begin with. So in the perfect competition case, regardless of whether you produce 1 unit, 5 units, 10 units, 100 units, 500 units, it was all the same. You were the price taker. Your output decision could not influence your price. But now your revenue depends not only on your output, but your price. Price itself also depends on output now. P 곱하기 Y인데 P도 이제 Y의 function이라는 얘기죠. 그렇죠? So, obviously, the first order condition to this calculus way, differentiating with respect to Y, gives revenue differentiated. What does that give us? What do we call it? 매출을 differentiate 하면은 아웃풋에 대해서. 그거 뭐라고 부르죠, 우리? 그냥 매출 아니고 marginal. So, 우리말로는 한계 매출이 되겠죠. Or if you differentiate the cost function with respect to output, in other words, how much does the cost change if you produce one more unit of output, then what? What is that called? Marginal cost. 한계 비용이 되겠죠. So your profit maximizing point must be where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. That's it. Nothing more. Obviously, I can talk about this intuitively, saying, if a firm is not making anything and facing a decision whether to produce one more or nothing, if it gives you more revenue than it costs to produce, you're going to produce it. Then you're going to move on to the second, move on to the second, move on to the third, move on to the fourth, move on until the point where you're indifferent between producing more and not producing. That's where you're going to exactly stop, right? And that's how we humans make decisions. You know, we don't talk about, I mean, that's the correct way to think about it, right? So if we go to a self-serving cafeterias, 우리 예를 들어서 군대에서 배식 같은 거 할 때요. 군대는 배식 조가 있으니까 예외다. 개인이 덜어 먹는 경우. So each individual, you know, takes it. Your decision to have this much rice and then put it onto your plate, 식판, that decision is a byproduct of extremely important process that went on your brain. The first grain of rice, is this going to give me more pleasure than not? Second grain, third grain, fourth grain. That your brain has done that, and it stops at the point there. The simple activity of you scooping that bowl of rice and then thumping it onto the plate is that decision. 그러니까 그 결과물로서 나타나는, 그러니까 저 조건이 맞아 떨어졌을 때 결과물로 나타나는 것이고, 실제로 인간이 그렇게 하진 않죠. 그러다가 맞아 죽죠. 배식을 하러 가는데 식판에서 한 톨, 한 톨, grain by grain. You don't do that. 진짜 팍 맞을 겁니다, 그죠? Or, you know, worse things can happen, right? We don't do that. But the choice, the outcome, you know, there are people who, you think they're always, you know, like, I mean, for guys here, and there are always people in the army who are so good at taking exactly the amount they're going to eat and then not leave anything, right? 꼭 그런 분들이 있죠. 진짜 딱 정확하게 먹으면 칼같이 덜어서. That's what they have done. Exactly. The 3 pieces of tofu, this amount of bulgogi, this amount of kimchi, that's the decision. Is that going to give me more pleasure or less? The utility maximizing point. Producer's equivalent is that. Is this producing one more unit of output going to give me more revenue, or is it going to cost me more? That's there. So that's how I motivate this marginal revenue equals marginal cost argument, okay? That's standard. Calculus-wise, it's easy to understand. So for the monopolist, you have to think about this, okay? Increasing output by Y has 2 effects on revenue. So 2 effects. S missing there. First, increasing output means you sell more output, okay? So you receive a revenue was P delta Y. But by doing so, the monopolist ends up pushing the price down by P. If you I don't know, if you've made 20 extra chickens than usual, if you go to E-Mart at around 10 p.m. in the evening, which is what I'm doing nowadays because there's so many good deals, 진짜 마트는 여러분 9시 반에 가야 됩니다. 진짜 이거는 진짜 진리예요. What happens there? Why? Why must we go to Mart, grocery shopping at 9:30 in the evening? Because people that made extra output have to attract the customers by doing what? Lower the price. So making more output, producing more output means you receive more revenue, which we call quantity effect, on those new goods, on those new outputs. But for all existing units that you could have sold at a higher price, you now have to do what? Cut the price. Therein lies the conundrum of monopolists. You will always be willing to increase your production if, up to a point where it equals marginal cost, if it doesn't lead to lower price for all your existing units. 물건 하나 더 팔자고 남은 99개의 가격을 안 떨어뜨려도 된다면 그때는 생산 더 하죠. 쭉쭉쭉 더 해도 됩니다. 아니거든요. 더 하기 위해서는 무언가 포기해야 되는 게 있다는 얘기죠. There's a trade-off between price effect receiving lower amount on all your existing good, and quantity effect, which is what? You're generating extra revenue from selling extra output. When they balance each other, that's the point where we maximize the profit. Let's show this graphically, okay? So the change in revenue is roughly equal to this, P delta Y plus Y delta P, okay? Knowing this, divided by delta Y, okay? Then you're just going to get P here, Y times delta P delta Y here. But if you factorize this using P, only 1 is going to be there, and it's going to be this divided by P inside the bracket. 이거를 이제 모으면요, 그죠? 인수분해라고 아니 인수분해 거꾸로 뭐지? 갑자기 생각이 안 나요. 팩토라이즈 하는 거. 수학과 도와주세요. 뭐죠? 그 갑자기 나 지금 용어 생각이 안 나. 그 정리하는 거, 그 괄호 안에. 어? 인수분해 맞죠? 네, 미쳤나? 인수분해를 하면 이렇게 남는다는 겁니다. But what's this? Remember, the price elasticity of demand was the percentage change in demand over percentage change in price. Rearrange that and you get this. So that is the exact opposite of that, inverse of that. 그죠? So this is the inverse of the price elasticity of demand. And that's the reason why we have P equals 1 plus 1 over epsilon. Epsilon stands for the price elasticity. But since that takes negative value, 얘는 unless it's a given good, which we safely forget about, unless it's a given good, this epsilon will always be negative. So you can take the absolute of it and then take this sign to be negative rather than plus. 항상 마이너스니까 절대값 취한 다음에 마이너스 해줘도 똑같이 나와야겠죠. 그죠? So, it's this. That's your marginal revenue. Remember, this is the definition of our marginal revenue. How much will your revenue change by if you increase output? It's this. That has to equal MC. And you can begin to notice why in perfect competition P equals MC. Because perfect competition implies that your elasticity of demand is negative infinity. If you deviate any little from the market demand, you get nothing. You get a chaotic answer. Yep. So elasticity will be infinity. Infinity divided by 1, the entire thing will be 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. And therefore, Py equals MCy. That's it. That's the result we get in perfect competition. 완전 경쟁 시장에서 왜 P가 MC와 똑같아야 되는지, MRMC가 아니라. 그거는 저 탄력성이 설명을 해주는 거죠. 탄력성이 이미 무한이니까 그렇다는 겁니다. 자, 그럼 무한이 아닌 경우는 어떻겠는가? 그걸 생각을 해보죠. First of all, notice that you can't ever have an equilibrium where the monopoly settles down on a point where elasticity is negative. Now, if we remember, 이걸 기억하시는 분도 있고 아니시는 분도 있을 텐데, even for a straight line, remember that elasticity changed. When this is constant, this too will always change, right? 탄력성의 이게 정의였죠. 얘가 똑같아서 even if this is the same, so it's a linear demand, at every point P and Y will be different. So when P is low and Y is high, like here, you get a very inelastic point. When P is high and Y is low, you get a very elastic point. Okay? But let's just think about this. What happens if the absolute value of this epsilon, the elasticity, is less than 1? If you subtract that from 1, 그거를 1 빼기 그걸 해주면 어떻게 되겠어요, 여러분? 마이너스죠. The entire thing is going to turn negative because epsilon is smaller than 1. Take the inverse, this is larger than 1. 1 minus something larger than 1 is negative. So, price can't be negative, MC can't be negative, but positive times negative is, so negative thing cannot ever equal positive thing. In other words, you can never ever see a monopolist operating on the inelastic part of the demand curve. Why? Because he's going to raise the price up to a point and he can still generate higher profit. And that's the reason why monopolists move beyond the inelastic part of the demand curve. So a monopolist, in other words, will never settle down on the inelastic part. Monopolists love a situation where the demand is inelastic. Cigarette companies love an inelastic demand for cigarettes. But that doesn't mean they're going to settle there. They will exploit that inelastic demand by raising the price. Raising, where you move beyond the inelastic component and settle down somewhere on the elastic part of it, where epsilon is greater than 1 in absolute value. So it's like this. When demand goes down like that, I've shown you that marginal revenue must always be below, and for linear demand, you must always have marginal revenue falling at a rate twice as fast as the demand curve. We talked about this. Okay? So like that, that's fine. AC and MC are there. Notice how where MC and MR meet, you get the profit maximizing point. Notice that this point is where MC equals MR. So that's what you do. Find the point where two intersect. Move up to the demand curve. That's where the monopolist is going to charge the price. Don't ever put down this point as the P. 여기가 P가 아니고요. 이거는 어디에서 생산할 거냐 아웃풋을 정해주는 겁니다. Don't ever just draw a vertical line here and say that's the price. That's not the price. This point of intersection between MR and MC exists to determine the optimal output. output이 어디냐를 정하기 위해서죠. Knowing that output, you move up to the demand curve where the customers are willing to pay the maximum amount. That's what we're going to charge, price. And the difference between price and AC times Q, as before, is your profit. So profit maximizing output is exactly obtained where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Simple as that. This must also hold, correct? Now, epsilon must be greater than 1. So it's going to take, this entire thing is going to take a value between what and what. 이 밑에가 할 수 있는 value가 얼마입니까? It takes value between 0 when epsilon is 1 and 1 when that epsilon is infinity. Somewhere between 0 and 1. Why is that relevant? That means if you take the inverse of it, what's the value that that can take? 얘가 0하고 1 사이에 묶여 있으면 얘는 얼마 사이에 묶여 있어야 돼요? 1, greater than 1 or equal to 1, and somewhere infinity. So price equals marginal cost multiplied by something that is greater than 1 and probably less than infinity. That's your markup. That is your profit margin, in other words. You make the good at cost of MC. In a perfectly competitive situation, that's the price that you sell it. P equals MC. No markup, no nothing. But in a monopolistic situation, you can charge a markup over the marginal cost. You can sell the good for something more than you cost to produce it. You incurred your cost to produce it. So this markup is greater than 1. That's a very intuitive result. Monopolist charges higher than the marginal cost. Now, I'm going to come back to that because that's going to be important. Okay? So a competitive industry operates at a point where P equals MC. That was the key condition. What the person pays, or the market pays to the supplier, is exactly equal to the firm's cost of producing that extra last output. Yeah, that's fine. Problem is this. How do we rationalize the fact that monopolists are charging a higher markup? In other words, they're charging a price greater than the marginal cost. So at the profit maximizing point for the monopolist, it must be that P is greater than MC. Now, what did I say the demand curve represented? 각각의 디마ን드 컵의 각 점이 의미하는 바가 뭐라 그랬습니까? 예전에 약간 컨슈머 서플러스 얘기할 때로 돌아가서. Willingness to pay. Thank you. Exactly. You're following. Great. Willingness to pay. The person that consumes that last unit, willingness to pay. How much the customer is willing to pay for that output. But let's talk about this. Suppose that monopolist is at a profit maximizing point, YM, PM. At that point, price is greater than marginal cost. Now suppose that I am the YM plus first customer. I want the monopoly to make that good for me. I go to them and say, here is my willingness to pay. Suppose that the current market price is 10,000 won. I say, okay, I'm willing to give you 9,900 won. 지금 10,000원에 지금 시장에 거래되고 있는데 하나를 더 만들어서 나한테 9,900원에 파세요. 입니다. Okay? From a monopolist perspective, that's less than MC. Sorry, that's greater than MC, sorry. In other words, it costs monopolists only, say, about 5,000 won or 6,000 won to make the product. Why does the monopolist not sell it to me? What's the problem going on here? I'm willing to buy it, buy the damn good, buy the product at a price higher than it costs for the monopoly to make that extra output. Why can I not get that good? What's the problem? I think you're getting to the right answer, yes? But let me rephrase that now, okay? The key insight here is, even though the price is greater than marginal cost, if the monopolist produces one more output, he has to charge that 9,901 to not just me, but everyone else. That's the problem. Okay? And that's the reason why if you go to E-Mart at 7 o'clock in the evening, you're not going to get the discount. If you sell everyone the same amount, if you ask same person to produce, the sale at 9,901, they're just going to lose out. They're not going to get as much profit. Only when they are sure that only the lowest demand people will be left at 10 p.m. in the evening, that's when the sale kicks in. This is something called inframarginality problem. Now, infra means, so ultra means exterior, outside. Infra means inside. That's why we get infrared, 적외선. 우리말로 그냥 다 외예요. 그래서 문제인데, 적보다 가시에서 밑에 있다 해서 infrared고, 보일 수 있는 보라색보다 바깥에 있다 그래서 뭐라고 하죠? ultraviolet, 자외선이 되는 거고. 나의 영어 수업인 것인가, 이거는 경제 수업인 것인가? So, inframarginal means all units that are inside of marginality. In other words, all existing units. If you're selling 100 goods and we're deciding upon the 101st unit, the other 100 already inside, already in the fold, already the firm's existing customers, they are the inframarginal ones. Inframarginality is the key here. Okay? So the fact that the firm must lower price on all other existing units of output is the reason why it harms its profit. So can you suggest any solution for the firm? Can I come in somehow and negotiate with the monopolist? How? I make him do a backdoor deal and say, you can charge 10,001 to everyone else. Just give it to me at 9,901. This is called price discrimination. 가격 차별입니다. 그게 우리가 다음 주에 볼 내용이에요. But that's assuming that the firm doesn't know the demand curve. 그렇죠? We take demand curve as given. What you're saying is that demand curve must have changed. Then the firm will act accordingly and the entire thing will change, right? But good point, thank you. So it's like this. Now suppose that the firm's MC, now remember that the MC curve, marginal cost curve, is exactly what turns out to be the firm's supply in competitive environment, right? So when P or D meets MC, that's the competitive outcome. D equals S. When MC meets MR, that's the monopoly outcome. Look at the two. Profit maximizing output is obtained where marginal revenue meets the marginal cost, not P or the demand curve meets MC. So price is higher than in competition. 너무 당연한 얘기죠. 독점 기업이 돈을 비싸게 받는다. Then it will produce less output in comparison with a competitive outcome. Okay? To measure how inefficient the monopoly really is, we look at the concept of producer surplus and consumer surplus. Now that we have talked about producer surplus and consumer surplus, we can examine this. That will show you why monopoly is inefficient from a welfare perspective. Now, the source of inefficiency comes from the fact that at the monopoly's profit maximizing point, there are still some people who are willing to pay more, and monopolists are willing to produce those goods as long as it doesn't in fact impact its inframarginal goods price. So there is some gain to be made by producing more. From an overall society's welfare perspective, people are willing to buy it 9,900 won. Monopoly can produce it at 6,000 won. It's better for them to produce from an overall social perspective. Produce, give it to someone else. I'm happy, you're happy. It's just that that's not going to work like that for profit perspective. That's the problem. And that's why we have a deadweight loss. Let me explain this. In a competitive outcome, supply equals demand. That's your competitive market price. The triangle below is the producer surplus. 그죠? The triangle above it is the consumer surplus. Excellent. Thank you. Now, however, if you change this industry into being a monopoly, the monopolist will charge the price here and produce this many output, right? What happens? This happens. Consumer surplus declines. Producer surplus will probably increase. You know, this triangle is smaller than that huge rectangle, but overall welfare-wise, what happens? We've lost this triangle. That purple place. Why did that happen? Because the monopoly was not willing to sacrifice its profit to produce that many more. Even though price is higher than MC, price is higher than MC, price is higher than MC. They both could have benefited from production and exchange and consumption. Production, exchange, consumption. That would have given this overall society greater welfare. Yet, because it harms their profit, monopoly doesn't do it. 나의 이윤을 해칠 것으로 생각이 되기 때문에 뭘 한다는 겁니까? 굳이 뭐 하러 저기에. 그죠? 안 하다 보니까 저 보라색 여기 없어진다는 겁니다. That triangle disappears. We could exploit it. Exploit is the wrong word. We could utilize that area on the competitive market. But it's gone on the monopoly. That's what is called deadweight loss. Or just shortened to be DWL. 뭐 우리말로는 그냥 보통 저거 뭐 다양하게 하는데 전 개인적으로 그냥 후생 손실이라고 부르는 게 제일 좋다고 봅니다. Welfare loss, right? In the last 10 minutes or so, let's talk about this. You might be left with an impression here that the government can probably come in. You know, it's a market failure. Market has failed. Is there a role for the government to improve upon the outcome? Perhaps. Okay? Government can be a force of good in certain instances. It may not, it may, who knows. But what if the government can force the monopolist to produce where price equals marginal cost? Everything will be solved, you think, right? The thing is, in reality, matters are not that easy. In certain industries, at that point, the firm will be making negative profits. If the government forces them to do so, the monopoly will not produce at all, ever. Full stop. That situation is called something called natural monopoly. It's very common in utilities industries. Water, electricity, telecommunications network, etc. Anything that is network-based. It's a type of situation where entire network being built and managed by one company is a more efficient outcome than many companies trying to serve the same network and duplicate each other. Okay, think about this. Suppose that from Seoul to Busan, there are 10 different railways competing. One goes from Seoul, Cheonan, Daejeon, Daegu, 뭐 경주, 마산, Busan, or something like that. The other one goes from, I don't know, something like Seoul to Pyeongtaek, and then Jochiwon, and then skip Daejeon, go to Cheongju, and then go down to Mungyong, and then Andong, and Daegu, and Gyeongsan, Yeongcheon, and then Busan. One company goes from Seoul to, okay, let's go east to Yeoju, 뭐 outlet 찍고, 뭐, and then down to Wonju, and then go down, like that. Do you see the point? Duplication is just not going to work. Hey, imagine 10 different underground or subway companies trying to compete on Sindorim to Sadang route. That's going to be chaos. Yeah? Use our metro, use their metro, use our metro. Not going to work, is it? One goes from 신도림 뭐 이렇게 신림 내려와서 사당 가고, 하나는 뭐 신도림 상도동 이렇게 해서 뭐 총신대 앞으로 지나서 뭐 방배 지나 이렇게 가고. It's not going to work. The efficient outcome is for one network managed by one company. Yep. And that's the reason why sort of utilities industry have been heavily regulated and often government managed and government run businesses in the past. Yep. So different countries have adopted different approaches towards natural monopoly industries. One way for the countries to regulate is for the monopolists to increase production up to the point where its AC equals price. In other words, just break even. Don't have any profit. But then the monopolists will have every incentive to hide their true cost. You know, there are ingenious ways to hide profits from accounting. There's so many easy ways of doing so. You know, buy a paper asset somewhere or something like that, and then that will count as, you know, an investment rather than etc. Or second way for the government to do is try and guess the best estimate of P equals MC, then subsidize the monopolist for any losses. That's the sort of relatively similar reasoning was adopted for. So the government demands that this many bus routes will be covered by this many companies. Each company will produce service that, you know, attends to the needs of the consumers, good quality, etc., etc. Then, obviously, the companies will make losses. We subsidize that with taxpayers' money. That's the system we get. Now, I mean, bus industries have problems of their own. I mean, that's not a perfect industry by any shape or form. But at the same time, the industry has improved since, you know, it changed a lot over the past 15 years. Imagine, you know, some of you may have, you know, used bus lines when you were like 6 or 7 or 8. Remember what buses were like back then and now. You know, we get like Tayo bus and stuff like that, right? I mean, companies wouldn't do that under normal circumstances. I think it's but there are problems of its own as well. I mean, the subsidization cost is huge. 그러니까 좋은 양질의 서비스는 받는 것 같아요. 분명히 버스 노선 많이 나가시긴 했으면 뭐 이상하게 막 버스에 막 무슨 사탕 같은 거 놔놓고 하나씩 드시고 가세요 이런 데도 있고. 근데 그것 또한 또 되게 보조금으로 결국 또 우리 혈세가 또 나가죠. Right? In other countries, government takes it over and runs it all together. But then that creates problems of its own. Rafael, let's bring you in. In Brazil, all the network-based industries like water or electricity, is that government-run? And what's the efficiency like? Is it? Oh, right, okay. So that's a good outcome. Oh, okay. So in the major cities, it's. But when we are looking at somewhere like Manaus or like exactly, yeah. So problems of its own, and so in Europe, for example, this is a hideous issue. In the past, huge issue. There's this thing called a tendency to engage in something called gold plating. If the government runs it, there's absolutely no incentive to reduce cost. So you end up with meaningless buildings that have like marble statues on the entrance and like huge foyer holes in the middle, and then like gold plating everywhere. 예전에 영국 저기 뭐 전기 회사들 같은 경우 대략 그랬습니다. 그래서 우리도 그래요. 한전 사옥 가 보세요. 저기 쫙 그 앞에 분들 보면 이쁘게 지어놨. 그러니까 그 사옥 부지가 얼마에 팔려요. So that tendency, there's no easy solution to natural monopoly, right? But what really matters is this. Is the firm's minimum efficient scale, the scale at which the company attains its minimum AC, small or large relative to the entire market? This is like our apple market, our rice market that we saw. An efficient way for the farmer to produce is that little plot of land that he owns, that he sows and reaps through combine tractors, etc. Network industry, not so simple. A firm has to be a certain large scale to attain an efficient cost basis, like networks. 10 different railways competing on Seoul to Cheonan route, that's not going to be an efficient outcome. When one company takes over the entire network, that's when you can guarantee efficiency. That's the nature for you. It's just how the cost technology works. You can't do anything about it. So that's why certain industries are more leaning towards competitive outcomes. Other industries are more likely to be monopoly. And these materials will be useful for your interim assignments that you have to hand in 2 weeks' time. What are the industrial characteristics that you see in that industry? That makes cartels an important perspective. So ultimately, the source of monopoly is closely related to the firm's cost function relative to the market demand, and that minimum efficient scale is that small relative to market demand, large relative to market demand. That's going to be the critical element in determining, are we going to see a monopoly or are we going to see a competitive outcome? Now, generally, let's end with one particular important example. Obviously, we will all, I hope, marry each other not each other, sorry, marry someone at some stage. Now, I'm not implying that you guys should, or anything like that. But, let's go for a gender-blind society. Why do men have to propose? Women can propose as well. Women can get down on their knees and propose as well. But someone will have to do it, right? You can't ever tell your children, how did you, what did you do for your proposal thingy? And then you can't tell your children like, oh, we were eating, double Whopper at Burger King, and then we thought, yeah, let's get married, and then we got married. It's not like that, is it? Yeah, you're gonna need that ring. As one of the great artists of our time, Beyonce once said, you should put a ring on it, right? So, the reason why I'm bringing single lady is diamond market is one of the most incredibly monopolistic cartels. The De Beers Group of Netherlands is a group of companies, a conglomerate almost, more or less together behaving like a huge cartel. Controls over 80% of world's annual diamond production, and in fact, without De Beers, the chances of you getting a non-blood diamond decreases dramatically. De Beers, one good thing about the cartel is that they are really rigid because of their image. They're incredibly rigid on the blood diamond issues. But anyway, other than that, huge cost distorting factor. Now, if you go to, somewhere like some jewelry shop in Cheongdam-dong or somewhere and negotiate a half-carat ring for proposal, standard thing to do, then they're going to ask you a ridiculous amount of stuff like what's the carat you want, what clarity do you want, what cut do you want, what 4 C's, carat, cut, clarity, 뭐 하나 더 있었는데. Anyway, something like color you want, etc., etc. So you get suddenly when you decide to get married, you suddenly become familiar with all these random alphabets like color E and clarity SI1 or VS2, and then like cut or 3 excellent, whatever stuff like that. But apart from those variations, the price is very rigid. There's hardly any variation in price in diamonds. Reason? De Beers. They have incredible control over all stages of diamond production, from the mining of the raw stones to cutting, distributing, and make it into, going into a Tiffany's or Cartier or wherever, or even just normal non-brand jewelry and etc.